F-14 Tomcat. Imagine a jet that could track 24 enemy aircraft at the same time. Not just track them, engage multiple targets at once, from over 100 miles away. That is exactly what the F-14 Tomcat was built to do. The United States Navy needed a serious answer to a serious problem. Soviet bombers were getting faster. Cruise missiles were getting smarter. The Navy needed a fighter that could intercept threats before they ever got close to the fleet. So they built the Tomcat. The F-14 entered service in 1974. It carried the AIM-54 Phoenix missile. That missile had a range of roughly 190 kilometers. No other air-to-air missile at the time came close. The Tomcat could fire 6 of them at 6 different targets, all at the same time. Its variable sweep wings were another game-changer. The wings could swing forward for slow-speed flight and sweep back for high-speed intercepts. This made the Tomcat incredibly versatile. It was fast, agile, and deadly at long range. But the F-14 is not just famous for its performance. It became a cultural icon. When Top Gun hit theaters in 1986, the world fell in love with this aircraft. That movie alone made the F-14 probably the most recognized fighter jet on the planet. The Tomcat was retired by the U.S. Navy in 2006. But its legacy, that is not going anywhere. MiG-31 Foxhound. Now let us talk about speed. Real speed. The MiG-31 Foxhound can fly at Mach 2.8. That is nearly 3 times the speed of sound. Very few aircraft in history have ever matched that. Even fewer were built for combat at those speeds. Russia developed the MiG-31 for one specific mission: protect a massive country. The Soviet Union stretched across 11 time zones. Siberia alone is bigger than the entire continental United States. Defending that much airspace required something extraordinary. The MiG-31 was that something. It entered service in 1981. Its radar system was a breakthrough. The Zaslon radar could track 10 targets at once and engage 4 of them simultaneously. At the time, no other fighter in the world had anything like it. The Foxhound was built to intercept American bombers and cruise missiles. Low-flying cruise missiles were a particular concern. They fly fast, they fly low, and they are hard to detect. The MiG-31 was specifically designed to hunt them down. 4 MiG-31s flying in formation could monitor a 900-kilometer stretch of airspace. That is a wall of radar coverage that almost nothing could sneak through. Today, the MiG-31 is still in service with Russia. It has been upgraded multiple times. It can now carry the Kinzhal hypersonic missile. That is a weapon that travels at Mach 10. The Foxhound is not just old hardware. It is still one of the most capable long-range interceptors flying today. F-106 Delta Dart. During the Cold War, the United States was terrified of one thing above everything else: Soviet bombers crossing the Arctic and dropping nuclear weapons on American cities. The answer to that fear had a name: the F-106 Delta Dart. The Air Force called it the ultimate interceptor. That was not a nickname they gave out lightly. The Delta Dart entered service in 1959. It was fast, very fast. It could reach speeds of Mach 2.3. But speed alone was not what made it special. What made the F-106 truly unique was its brain. It was directly connected to NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. Ground controllers could actually uplink data directly into the aircraft. The F-106 could be guided to its target almost automatically. The pilot flew the plane. The system handled the intercept. And its weapons? The Delta Dart carried nuclear-tipped air-to-air missiles. If a wave of Soviet bombers was coming, one F-106 could potentially destroy multiple aircraft with a single nuclear detonation. That is how serious the Cold War threat was. And that is how serious the F-106 was in response. It served the Air Force until 1988. Nearly 3 decades of defending American skies. No other interceptor in U.S. history served that long in that role. The ultimate interceptor. The name was earned. Su-15 Flagon. Not every aircraft becomes famous for what it did in battle. Some become infamous for what they did in peacetime. The Su-15 Flagon is one of those aircraft. Built by the Soviet Union in the 1960s, the Flagon had one job: intercept enemy aircraft violating Soviet airspace. Fast. No questions asked. It was designed for speed and altitude. It could climb rapidly and reach supersonic speeds quickly. Against slow-moving bombers at high altitude, it was extremely effective. The Soviet Union had strict rules about its airspace. The Flagon was the enforcer of those rules. In 1978, a Su-15 forced a Korean Airlines Boeing 707 to land after it strayed off course near Soviet territory. That incident ended without casualties. But in 1983, the story was very different. A Su-15 shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007. All 269 people on board were killed. The aircraft had accidentally entered Soviet airspace. The Flagon crew followed their orders. That single event shocked the world. It escalated Cold War tensions to a dangerous level. And it put the Su-15 on the front pages of every newspaper on the planet. The Flagon was retired after the Soviet Union collapsed. But its story remains one of the most tense and tragic chapters in Cold War aviation history. English Electric Lightning. Some aircraft are technically impressive. Some are visually impressive. And then there is the English Electric Lightning. It is both. Britain built the Lightning in the late 1950s with one goal: climb faster than anything else in the sky. Intercept Soviet bombers before they could drop their weapons over British cities. The Lightning delivered on that goal in a spectacular way. Its two engines were stacked on top of each other inside the fuselage. That unusual arrangement gave the aircraft incredible thrust in a compact design. The Lightning could climb to 40,000 feet in under 3 minutes. Pilots called it a rocket with a cockpit. It entered service with the Royal Air Force in 1960. It could reach speeds of Mach 2. It was the only all-British aircraft ever to exceed twice the speed of sound in level flight. But the Lightning had limits. It burned fuel at an enormous rate. Its range was short. It was built purely for speed and climb. Get up fast, intercept the threat, come back down. That narrow focus made it brilliant at its job and limited everywhere else. The Lightning was retired in 1988, but among aviation enthusiasts, it holds a permanent place of honor. There has never been another aircraft quite like it. Our pilots who flew it never forgot the experience. Most of them say it was the most exciting aircraft they ever flew. That says everything. F-14 Phantom II. The last aircraft on this list is a legend for a different reason. It did not do just one thing well. It did everything well. The F-14 Phantom II started life as a Navy interceptor. It was big, powerful, and loaded with radar and missiles. Its job was to engage enemy aircraft from long range before they could threaten the fleet. It entered service in 1960. Within a few years, both the Navy and the Air Force were flying it. Then came the foreign sales. The UK, Germany, Japan, Israel, Iran, South Korea. Eventually, 11 countries operated the Phantom. Over 5,000 were built. The F-4 carried powerful radar and long-range air-to-air missiles. As an interceptor, it could engage targets from miles away without ever getting into a close-range dogfight. That was the doctrine of the time. Missiles had made close combat obsolete. Or so everyone thought. Vietnam proved that theory wrong. But that is a story for another day. What matters here is the Phantom's role as a long-range interceptor. It filled that role on carriers, on land bases, and in air forces around the world for decades. Some F-4s were still in active service as recently as 2020. In Iran, in South Korea, in Greece. No other aircraft from that generation lasted that long or flew that wide. The F-4 Phantom II was not the fastest interceptor. It was not the most specialized. But it may have been the most important of them all, because it proved that a great interceptor could also be a great everything else. And in aviation history, that combination is nearly impossible to beat.